Alright, welcome to another video, and before we get started, I'd like to take a quick minute to thank all the Patreon supporters and YouTube channel members whose names you see scrolling across the screen right now. They make this financially possible, and without you, I probably wouldn't be here making videos, so thank you. Alright, so we're back with another flight. Once again, flying Walksnail. Haven't really changed much since the last flight with the airplane. The only thing I did is switch back to 1080p rather than the 720p that we were using previously. The biggest changes are on the ground. I've pretty much replaced all of my computer that I use to record everything in my workshop. We're running a little mini PC. We'll talk about that more later. But as far as what we kind of have in store for the flight, I'm just gonna kind of fly out kind of south today because we have a south wind. As you can see on the OSD there, it's indicating about an 8-mile-an-hour wind from the south. And because I've running on a different computer now, I have all my software set up again. Kind of set everything up from scratch. We have this nice little GPS overlay that I can show you now. And kind of zoom in and out, whatever. You can see that's kind of like my little loiter after we took off. And we'll probably go ahead and zoom out a little bit just so that we can have a little bit bigger display there. I might turn it off later, but we're just going to kind of leave it on for now and see how it goes, how useful it is or isn't. So we'll go to fly by wire and just kind of start heading out here. And put a little bit more power back in. We're going to go to cruise once we get down a little bit lower anyway, but I'm going to go ahead and push the nose down, lose some altitude. I want to get down, I don't know, around 100 feet or so, and then we'll cruise out here over the fields. Not really much to look out here other than all the standing water from the rains. You can see we switch back to cruise now, and we'll get on with the flight. We should have, I don't know, maybe 15-20 minutes before sunset, and probably a few minutes after the sun sets we'll still be fine to fly. So should make for a pretty fun little flight unless something goes wrong. Hopefully it won't. But yeah, so like I was saying, we're running on a different computer now. For the last, I don't know, probably 4 years, 3-4 years, I've been using an old computer that I built out of leftover recycled PC parts after I'd upgraded the main computer that I use in the house. It was running an older AMD FX8320E, which was pretty decent processor in its day. Had a pretty good performance for your money kind of value ratio thing. You know, price per dollar was pretty high with that CPU back in its day when it was still top of the line. And I had one of those in it with an older motherboard. I forget what chipset the motherboard was, but it was pretty outdated by now. And it was running an old NVIDIA GPU graphics card. It was a GTX 960 with 2 gigabytes of RAM. And as far as memory in the computer itself, I had 16 gigabytes of DDR3. And I was running Windows 10 because that processor isn't officially supported in Windows 11. And I kind of like Windows 10 anyway. But besides that, I didn't really want to run anything, do any hacks or anything to make it work on a computer that really didn't need Windows 11 and was kind of needed to be more reliable than anything else. Being that I was recording my FPV feeds and stuff like that with it, I favored reliability over anything else. Anyway, so once I started recording this 1080p 60 stuff with the new little EasyCap Camlink that we're running to record this higher resolution FPV stuff now, I had to play around with my encoder settings to get it to a point where it could handle the 1080p 60 recording and not overrun the processor and start dropping frames and things like that. So it was kind of at a point where it was starting to show its age and was kind of a bit of a compromise to make it work. So what I did, I picked up this little PC that we're running right now. It's a Beelink SER5 little mini PC. It's actually mobile hardware put into a little mini PC case. And it's running on a Ryzen 5 5560U processor with 16 gigabytes of DDR4 memory. And it has its internal, just built-in GPU, little Radeon Vega graphics. I forget what series it is. It's whatever's built into that CPU though. There's no dedicated graphics card, which I was somewhat concerned that I might notice a performance hit going from the NVIDIA card to this little internal GPU as far as encoding video and things like that with OBS. But once I set this one up and started using it, playing around with it on the workbench, it performs really well. Quite a bit better, in fact, than my old setup did. So I'm really happy with that. And I've still not changed that pan servo, as you can see there. It's kind of jittery, bothering me a little bit. And by the way, we did obviously gain a little bit of altitude. We're now at 160 feet. I climbed up a little bit to fly over the woods here. And I'm probably going to go ahead and gain a little bit more altitude. We're not going real far. I'm not going over town today. Once we reach the far end of this field there, that'll start putting us over the town out here. So we're going to stay on this side of that. We'll stay on the north side of town. But we're not going to go much higher. We're going to get up to, I don't know, around 250 or so. Which we're kind of getting there now. But so yeah, like I said, once I started playing around with this and testing it on the workbench to see if I was going to try to use it as my main PC in the workshop, I was pretty happy with the performance increase I got. Where I was maxing out my processor before using software encoding, because I wasn't really happy with the NVIDIA's hardware encoding, I did notice quite a bit of artifacts and compression, artifacts and things like that using NVIDIA's built-in hardware encoding. So I kind of like the software encoding better for that reason, but I was overrunning the processor and kind of taxing it and dropping frames unless I dropped the quality preset quite a bit. But with this one, running software encoding on a high quality preset, I'm only hitting like 50% CPU. And if I use the not NVIDIA, the AMD hardware encoding that is supported in OBS, I can do hardware encoding in H.264 or H.265, and both of them barely tax the GPU at all, and the CPU sits at like 30%. And that's running not only OBS doing the video recording, but I'm also doing Mission Planner and everything. That's how I'm getting the little GPS overlay for the map and all that you see down there. So everything works really well. And like I said, it's such a low power processor, or the whole little computer pretty much is such a low power unit. I forget how many watts it draws, but it's well under 100 watts for the entire system maxed out running benchmarks and everything. If I'm not mistaken, it's pretty much, it's like 40 something. It's under 50 watts. And that'll run off of a battery just fine. You could run this off of a little battery bank and inverter and have a nice little portable ground station if you want it. Now, I would prefer to have my dual monitors like I'm doing now. Just kind of looking at the cell tower out there. But obviously, I would like to keep dual monitors, which would be a little bit of a hassle with a portable setup built into a waterproof case or something like that, which is kind of something I was thinking about doing. Maybe set up a second one to have a portable unit that I could bring around if I wanted to fly somewhere else. But I mean, let's be honest. I've been flying in the same spot here for over a decade. Been flying FPV out here, and I don't really expect to change that anytime soon. So a mobile ground station unit is not very high on my list of priorities at the moment. So I'm actually going to turn and fly back up the bayou here a bit. I'm kind of noticing I've seen out here at the house, this is actually the same bayou that loops around and passes on the other side of our house. It makes a big loop out in that direction and loops around and comes back. But I've noticed the water levels in the bayou are quite high lately, but the water levels are kept high by a dam that's a little bit downstream from our house. And I assume that that dam, it drains through a culvert, kind of like a weir setup, basically, I guess would be the right way to describe it. But it basically, that's what they use to regulate the water level in the bayou over at our house. But this end is just directly drains in and out as the river comes out right over there. But I assume that that drain was stopped up because it happens from time to time. It'll get clogged up by the house, especially with all that hyacinth that's in the bayou that I talked about in the last couple of videos. That'll get washed into that culvert and kind of clog it up, and it'll raise the water levels out by the house unless it gets drained or cleaned out so it can drain. But I'm just kind of noticing the water levels out here look pretty high, quite a bit higher than I expected. That might be actually what's responsible for the high water level. It may actually be all the way backed up from the river, which is pretty unusual for this time of year. So I'm still kind of assuming at this point that that's not the case. This could just be a lot of rainwater that hasn't drained out of here yet. Because like I said, we have been getting a lot of rain lately. But what I'm looking at is that water, this little path down here close to the airplane, closer to the field that we're flying over, this is the bayou, the normal place where the water is. But all this out here at the base of the levee on the other side of those trees, that usually only gets water in it when the river floods in here pretty high. So I just kind of noticed that. So I was thinking we may be actually getting some high water from the river here. Get a nice look at the camps out here. I've never noticed that little platform out there by that pond before. That might be something new. Looks pretty neat. And I'd like to go set up on there and fly one day, fly from that thing. Set up there with my antennas and fly. Of course, this is all private. You'd have to ask for permission, but yeah, this area here, that camp and all this little overgrown area, you see these green patches that cut out here and these ponds that hold water. That's all private land that's used for hunting deer and duck and things like that. But that would be pretty cool to come set up on that little platform and fly out here. You could do some low level flying all out in this area. Sure do have a nice sunset out there too. It's pretty once it's set below the clouds like that. And I started to not fly today with the wind blowing like this. I was gonna wait and see if it was a little more calm tomorrow, but I need to get more into the habit of flying, not paying as much attention to the wind speeds as much as I have traditionally. Once I've started flying Ordu-plane, I've noticed all the airplanes that I set up and tune well, like I spent a fair amount of time tuning this one, getting it dialed in as close to perfect as I am able to get it. Seen a little bird fly by. I guess that was a bird. Something flew by. But this one, the AR Pro, the what do you call it? Dart XL. We have Ordu-plane in one of those. The Reptile Dragon. All of those planes that are running Ordu-plane, they seem to just be really happy flying in the wind, or not necessarily happy, but it doesn't really bother them at all. They don't, they just shrug it off and don't really care. But yeah, the wind seems to be less of an issue with Ordu pilot setups than the Vector and iNav and things like that I flew traditionally and kind of developed those habits of waiting for really calm days to fly. And like I said, we're pushing, it's bouncing around, averaging around 8 miles an hour right now. They were showing a little under 8 when we took off. It's a little over 8. Well, it's exactly 8 now when I said that. But it's been kind of hovering right around 8 miles an hour wind from the south. It's kind of a crosswind hitting us right now, and it really hasn't bothered us at all. Obviously, you can see your ground speed changes depending on what direction you're flying, but other than that, you don't really feel it. It does a good job of dampening all the wind gusts and everything, even with this little lightweight airplane. It just seems to fly well. So I was gonna kind of head back home and end the video and just kind of see what I could edit out of it, but I think I'm going to go ahead and stay in there a little bit and try to catch the sunset. You can see it's almost set over the horizon now. Like I said, when we took off, we had about 15-20 minutes before sunset. We've been flying for 14, almost 15 minutes now. So that's right on time, right on schedule, as expected. I am starting to feel some of the little wind gusts now. It is kind of rocking us around a little bit, but not too bad. And when I say I kind of feel these wind gusts, I mean, I just noticed the airplane just barely bumps around a little bit on the roll axis. You'll see it kind of bank and then straighten back out. And you notice it more when you're flying in cruise like this, because every little movement like that throws it off course, the autopilot wants to counter that movement to get back on course. Not necessarily just stabilize the airplane, but it wants to keep its course and do course corrections as well. So you'll actually see more wandering around, and especially in the roll axis, holding a GPS course in the wind. But still quite happy with the way it flies. I'm pretty happy with Walksnail too, the way it looks and everything. And like I said, I'm flying on a different monitor right now. I'm not actually looking at my computer display while I'm flying and recording this. So I'm still not 100% sure this is actually recording right and not dropping frames like it was doing previously with some different setups. But I'll get to review all that, and obviously you've been watching it all the time. If this video makes it online and you're watching it, then you already know more than I do about it at this point, while I'm recording it anyway. But yeah, you can see all that water back here is normally dry fill. All this water out here standing is all ground saturated and too much rain to soak in. You kind of see that pink and purple color in the sky now at sunset. So if we look back here, I bet the sun is either already set or about to. Yeah, it's still above the horizon, but it won't be much longer. It'll be below it. So we'll just kind of hang around up here and take in some of the scenery until that sun does set, and then we'll go ahead and get back home and land and get this edited and uploaded. When I say edit it, I mean pretty much just kind of put my intro and credits and everything in it and re-encode it and upload it. That's one reason I like doing this live recording setup with the audio and everything like this, is because I don't have to do a lot of editing. It tremendously reduces my workload as far as getting videos out quicker and on a more regular basis. Which is good for me and hopefully good for you too. Hopefully you all enjoy it. I got a couple of comments on the last video after I uploaded one with less narration and a little background audio track, that people like to remind me that they still like my narrated videos and talking about different topics while we fly and stuff like that, which is kind of what I enjoy doing too. And obviously you all enjoy it as well. It's a really nice sunset out here now. You can see the sun does look like it's below the horizon now, or at least below the tree line. And we're getting some nice colors out here. And again, I'm really impressed with the performance as far as light handling and the dynamic range and everything of the Walksnail camera too. And especially considering this is the smaller of the two, at least the ones that come with the large transmitter, the full-size transmitter. There's a mini and a nano. This is the nano camera with the full-size transmitter. I still have the mini in the box on the workbench and haven't really decided what to put it in yet. I've kind of made up my mind more than once, and then I change my mind and come up with other ideas, and that's why I haven't really started working on anything with that second camera and transmitter yet, because I want to have a better idea of what I want to do with it permanently anyway. So once I do finally make a final decision, then I'll get to work on that and we'll start flying something else with Walksnail. But I'm really just enjoying flying this little airplane right now, to be honest. There was some other topic that I was gonna talk about. Oh yeah, the audio, the microphone. Um, Obviously, if you've listened to me talking to the microphone for like 20 minutes, almost 20 minutes now, then you'll already have a good idea. Let me know in the comments below how the audio sounds, because when I set everything up again from scratch on the new computer, I was previously using I'm using a little lapel mic to record the audio, but I was running it through Voicemeeter software, running some filters and EQs and things like that. I was manipulating audio quite a bit for my narration anyway, for my lapel mic, to get it to sound good. But to me it seems like I have quite a bit better audio quality using the built-in sound controller in this new computer. To the point where I didn't feel the need to run all that software like I was doing before. So the only thing I'm doing for the mic in this one, I'm just running the audio straight from the input into OBS as an audio source. And I'm running the built-in 3-band equalizer that was added in OBS recently in one of the recent updates, just to tweak the way the mic sounds a little bit. And that's it. We're not doing any more filters or any other processing or anything like that, which again makes everything so much easier and reduces my workload quite a bit. And from what I saw in the quick test I did before the flight, it seemed like it was going to sound fine. But again, I'll know by the time this gets uploaded. And you can see this nice sunset in the sky here. That's why I wanted to hang around and catch that before we actually land. And I do see it looks like the sun is not quite below the horizon. I can actually still see it right out there. Turn off my AHI so it's not as distracting. But yeah, you can see that sun is actually right on the horizon now. So when I thought it was actually all the way set before, I guess it was just kind of behind some low-level clouds or something out in that direction. Another thing I want to set up, speaking of removing the AHI, if I turn the AHI back on, you notice when I bank the airplane, it follows what the airplane is doing, but it doesn't really match the horizon, because it doesn't know your camera's turned over here. It assumes the horizon is out here off the nose of the airplane where it should be. And like this, when you bank, it follows the horizon. But when you pan the camera over, when you bank, everything looks wonky and not aligned like it should be. So what I'm actually going to do in my Arduplane settings, in my setup for the OSD, right now I'm currently using 3 different screens. And let me bank the airplane back over so we can start heading back towards home. And what I'm doing right now with the 3 screens, this is my main screen with everything active. This screen, if I switch between these two, you notice the lower left corner, it just removes the HDOP. And what other thing does it do? Over on the where my amps and milliamp hours, you see I have my efficiency milliamp hours per mile. I also removed that on the second screen. It's just those 2 little things that I remove between those 2 screens. And then the third screen is the second one, also minus the AHI in the center that you can see there. So I have a full screen, a middle screen, and the third screen. And really none of it is that critical. I just kind of set that up playing around with different OSD screens, and then I just left it after that. But I think what I'm actually going to do is set up 3 screens. I think you can have up to 4 if I'm not mistaken. Or it might be even more than that. But I know I have another last screen set up that is just the OSD stats in the center. It replaces the AHI with the OSD stats, or the flight stats anyway, on the OSD. There's some real nice colors out here now. Nice sunset. But that one is only triggered when I disarm. It's set up as my disarm screen. There's no way for me to manually select that screen, or at least the way I have it set it up. I don't have a way to manually select it. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to replace the 3 screens I have now. I'm going to have a main screen like this, and then I'm going to have a secondary screen, 2 secondary screens. Or maybe I might be able to do it with just 2 screens. But anyway, what I'm going to do, I'm going to have a normal screen and then a screen with no AHI. And I'm going to use the pan servo channel that I use to control my pan servo to select the secondary screen with no AHI. So that the AHI appears when I'm looking straight ahead, and then if I look either direction, it'll hide the AHI. So when I look over off the wingtip, it'll just take the AHI away like that. And then as soon as I pan back to the center, it'll show the AHI. I think that'll be a little bit more intuitive, and because usually anytime I'm looking off the side of the wing like that anyway, it's because I'm looking at something. I want to look around, and the AHI is more in the way than not. And if I ever find myself in a situation where I need the AHI to fly the airplane, if I need to have it for reference, then it's because I don't have a ground reference anyway, and I don't care where the camera's pointed. So I'll just point the camera straight ahead and have my AHI in that situation. So that's a change I'm going to do in the future. It's something I've wanted to do already. I just haven't got around to it yet. But we'll do that and try it out. And I'm just kind of running through it in my head right now. You have to set up a range for selecting your OSD screens. So I'm probably going to have to do it using 3 screens. I'm going to have a center screen that uses a certain range around the center of my servo channel, and then 2 screens that use the rest of the servo range on either side of center. I think I may be able to just do it 1 screen that uses the full range, or just 1 normal screen, and then have another one that overrides it with the second screen, using the center of the servo to override it with a second screen with the AHI. I'm not sure how I'll have to set that up. I'll have to read the notes on Arduplane and figure out what works and what doesn't, and then set it up accordingly. But I know I can do it. I just don't know if it'll take 1 or 2 screens to do it. And I really don't know. I guess the last screen it switches to will be the one it shows until it finds a reason to switch to another one. So I'm not sure. I may be able to still set some up on a switch if I want to. That'll override that until I select a different one. We'll just have to experiment and see what all we can do with it. But anyway, I'm to the point now. I'm just kind of flying around in circles out here and rambling on. So yeah, let me know what you think about the video quality, the audio quality, the little GPS overlay down there. Should I leave it or should I hide it and leave it? I can turn it on and off like that at will. I have it set up to just kind of slide in and out. But yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and start flying towards home and set up my landing. And as far as wind, let me fly in kind of this direction. Yeah, the wind is showing now 9 miles an hour, straight tailwind. So when we land, it's going to be a crosswind, regardless of which direction we go from. So I guess we'll fly looking into the sun. Make it more challenging, why not? Mostly because it's easier for me to approach from that direction. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and switch to fly-by-wire. Cut some power back, start descending, and set up my landing. And I may actually, if I have time, either tonight or during the day tomorrow, I might actually set that OSD thing up like I was talking about. And maybe we can fly again tomorrow and try it out. That's kind of my goal at this point, but I'm really not committed to it yet. It depends on how much time I have tonight and tomorrow. And if I'm able to figure it out and all that good stuff. I see a car across the levee there, straight ahead. I see the lights from it. Yep. Alright, so need to go ahead and finish setting up my landing here. Flying off the side of the antennas, but it doesn't seem to matter. And as far as video performance and everything, that little run we did out to town on this flight, everything went as good as I could have hoped. So I'm going to go ahead and cut to idle and start my flare. Get a nice smooth landing out there. Real nice sunset to look at. There's the shot. I'm going to go ahead and disarm so that we drop into low power mode. You'll see that summary screen that I was talking about. That just selects another OSD screen that I have that little summary as an item in the center there. And OSD is still flickering. Haven't found a fix for that yet. Hopefully Walksnail will update it soon and fix it. But we'll see. Got a nice moon out there behind us. Getting easier to see it now that the sun is starting to set. And you see the lights on in the shop. It's actually, I'm looking out the window and it's actually much darker than it looks in the camera. So again, I'm pretty happy with the way the camera and everything performs with light performance and all that good stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and go out there and get the airplane and power it down. Switch back to manual mode. And actually, I can actually switch the power to the transmitter in here. I'll do that now just to show you. I can switch the transmitter off. And you see down there, transmitter disconnected. I'm doing the relay in the flight controller. I have it set up to switch power for the transmitter. And anyway, rambling on now. We're going to end the video, cut it here. If you made it this far, thank you for watching it. And of course, I've put my little reminder too that I appreciate all my Patreon supporters and channel members at the beginning of the video now, rather than the end of the video. So maybe more people will hear it. Anyway, it's the end of the video. Thank you for watching all the way to the end, and I'll see you all in the next one.